I'm very, very, very happy to be with you here in front of our Nativity Crib in St. Francis Church. So I'm very, very happy. Not just because it's the first Christmas here in the AFH, Abrahamic Family House, but of course, and so also in our church, but also because this here, 2023, is exactly the 800 years anniversary of the Nativity Crib of Greccio. That, of course, I say because I know, but let's say Greccio means immediately St. Francis of Assisi. And this church is named after St. Francis. We already started to do a catechesis, a Franciscan spirituality path. So already we started to dig deeper inside the spirituality of St. Francis. So bit by bit, as you can see, we are discovering more and more things. Like, for example, this evening, that was St. Francis of Assisi who invented the nativity scene. And this evening, we're going to discover how and why St. Francis invented the crib. Moreover, I already said this on the occasion on the 8th of December, so the Immaculate Conception Day, while we were lighting up the Christmas crib and also the Christmas tree, but the Holy Father welcomed the request from the Franciscan families, because it's plural. We are Capuchins, there are the Friars Minor, and there are the Friars Conventual, there is the Third Order, yani different Franciscan families. So we joined together and we asked to the Pope, please, it's 800 years anniversary. Let's make something beautiful, an occasion for the people all over the world. And Pope Francis says, okay, you know what? Let's give the plenary indulgence, okay, from the 8th of December, so the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary, till the 2nd of February, 2024, of course, Feast of the Presentation in the Temple of our Lord Jesus Christ. How to get this indulgence? Of course, under the usual thing, but also just being in front of the Christmas crib and say a prayer. Christmas crib all over the world, in the churches run, pastorally speaking, by Franciscan friars. So, of course, also this, our St. Francis Church. And so this evening at the end, even though already this catechesis is a prayer, but let's say if you want to take your 5 seconds and make a prayer, it's going to be already part of your possibility to gain the plenary indulgence. So this is a very special and happy moment for us all. So before starting, I'd like to remind you, if you want to know more about the nativity scene, more than what we discovered this evening together, there is a very nice reference text that you can easily find online, and it's for free. Good news, it's for free. That is the amazing apostolic letter by Pope Francis, of course, 5 years ago. He wrote this amazing letter, Admirabile Signum, that is exactly upon the Christmas crib. Okay, so if you want to know more, just Google it and read it. It's beautiful. So, the nativity scene is like a living gospel rising up from the pages of the sacred scriptures. As we contemplate the Christmas story, we are invited to set out on a spiritual journey, drawn by the humility of the God who became man in order to encounter every man and every woman. So we come to realize that so great is His love for us that He became one of us, so that we in turn might become one with Him. So the origin of the Christmas crib is founded above all in certain details of Jesus' birth in Bethlehem, of course, as related in the Gospel. The evangelist Luke especially says simply that Mary gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger because there was no place for them in the inn. Okay? So, and of course, our nativity crib, more or less, is intended to give this idea. So coming into this world, the Son of God was laid in the place where animals feed. And St. Augustine, very famous saint of the church, with other church fathers, was impressed by this symbolism. Laid in a manger, he became our food. Indeed, the nativity scene evokes a number of the mysteries of Jesus' life and brings them close to our own daily lives. So this is the general framework that we have to take into consideration. So having said so, let's see what happened at the time of St. Francis. We need to imagine ourselves in the little town of Greccio near Rieti in Italy, this little city. St. Francis stopped there, most likely on his way back from Rome, where he had received the confirmation of his rule from the Pope at that time. And what happened in Greccio? Greccio landscape, as you can see, hills, down there you can see it, hills, but as also, you see here on the right side, caves. So those natural elements reminded to St. Francis what he saw in his visit to the Holy Land. Yani, the caves in Greccio reminded him of the countryside of Bethlehem. Plus, because he was coming back from Rome, as we said, it's very possible that Francis had been struck by the mosaics in the Roman Basilica of St. Mary Major. This one. The mosaics inside this, so let's give a look. This is how it looks like inside. So you can see on the right side already some mosaics. But of course, there is one particular mosaic, the Nativity. So it's very possible that Francis gets struck and say, was amazed by this scene. Also, plus, I don't know if you are familiar, but close to this very basilica in Rome, there is the place where, according to the ancient tradition, the wooden panel of the Jesus manger are preserved. Of course, it's a tradition, but still, for us, it helps us to pray, to feel, related. So, if you combine all this, you have to think that all this was in the mind of Francis, was in the mind and is in his own heart. The Holy Land, left side, the caves, and the mosaic, okay? So now, finally, let's read the Franciscan sources, the original Franciscan sources that describe in detail what then took place in Greccio. 15 days before Christmas, Francis asked a local man named John to help him realize his desire. So it's already a desire, important word. To bring to life the memory of that baby born in Bethlehem. To see as much as possible with my own bodily eyes the discomfort of his infant needs, how he lay in a manger, and how with an ox and as standing by, he was laid upon a bed of hay. At this, his faithful friend went immediately to prepare all that the saint had asked. On 25th December, friars came to Greccio from various parts together with people from farmstands in the area, who brought flowers and torches to light up that holy night. When Francis arrived, he found a manger full of hay, an ox and a donkey. All those present experienced a new and indescribable joy in the presence of the Christmas scene. The priest then solemnly celebrated the Eucharist over the manger, showing the bond between the incarnation of the Son of God and the Eucharist. At Greccio, there were no statues, so not like us today. The nativity scene was enacted and experienced by all who were present. I don't know if you know, but St. Francis was like not an actor, but he wanted to use so much the body, everything, an integral conception of the gift of God. So he was always doing something, acting something. So, now, brothers and sisters, this is how our tradition began. With everyone gathered in joy around the cave. And there, right there, Francis wanted to celebrate the Holy Mass at Christmas Eve. So everyone that day went home with joy. And of course, our intent is to go back home every day of this Advent time with the true joy of Christ. So, St. Francis of Assisi, with the simplicity of the scene of the sign of the crib, touched the hearts of Christians and continues today to offer a simple yet authentic means of portraying the beauty of our faith. So, from the time of its Franciscan origins, the nativity scene has invited us to feel, to touch the poverty that God's Son took upon himself in the incarnation. So implicitly, it summons us to follow him along the path of humility, poverty, and self-denial that leads from the manger of Bethlehem to the cross. It asks us to meet him and serve him by showing mercy to those of our brothers and sisters in greatest need. And here, at St. Francis Church, Abrahamic Family House, it's even more evident, the link between the church herself and Christmas. And you know why? Because of the seal of our church. The seal of the church, in fact, all the wood pending, coming down from above, represent the descendant, the incarnation of Christ. It represents Christmas. Christmas. So every time we enter in the church, wow, it's Christmas. And after we look, wow, it's Easter. And after, again, we look up again, wow, it's the Holy Spirit that is coming down. So in this church, you have all the cycle of the Christian life. The incarnation, of course, the passion, the death, the resurrection, so the cross, the resurrection, and the Holy Spirit upon the faithful. So here is very meaningful. Now, let's try to understand why does the Christmas crib arouse such wonder and move us so deeply. First, because it shows God's tender love. The creator of the universe lowered himself to take up our littleness. It's amazing. Simple and amazing. And incredible, unbelievable, speechless. And now, of course, we cannot stop here. I mean, we have different characters inside the crib, so let's try to understand better each character, or some one of them at least. Let's start from the background, the starry sky. You see our lights here, the starry sky, wrapped in the darkness and silence of night. We represent this not only out of fidelity to the gospel accounts, but also for its symbolic value. We can think of all those times in our lives when we have experienced the darkness of night. Yet, even then, God does not abandon us, but is there to answer our crucial question about the meaning of life. Who am I? Where do I come from? Why I was born at this time in history and maybe in this part of the world? Why do I love? Why do I suffer? Why will I die? It was to answer these questions that God became man. His closeness brings light where there is darkness and shows the way to those dwelling in the shadow of suffering. So, of course, let's look also at the landscape. Now, here we don't have a lot of landscape. But with what emotion should we arrange, for example, mountains, or streams? But anyway, we have a ship, for example, no? In the nativity scene. As we do so, we are reminded that, as the prophets had foretold, all creation rejoices in the coming of the Messiah. And of course, in saying this, I cannot recall you Laudato Si, Laudato Deum. We just, in Dubai, experienced the COP. The so-called, Yani, what Pope Francis helped us to call with the term integral ecology. For St. Francis, the Canticum of creatures. A lot of things we can recall by setting down mountains and all the landscape. Another sign, of course, is the angel and the guiding star. We don't have the guiding star. You know why? Because we are called to be the guiding star for others. So that's why, in purpose, we didn't put a guiding star there. Because this evening I wanted to share with you this idea. Maybe it's too symbolic. Doesn't matter still. So anyway, the angel, what are those? Are the sign that we too are called to set out for the cave and to worship the Lord. We name the sheep, poor sheep, without a shepherd cannot stand. So, of course, shepherds. The shepherds, let us go over to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has made known to us. So the shepherds tell one another after the proclamation of the angels, let's go, let's go. And this is a beautiful lesson for us all. From them emerge this simple word, let's go. So unlike so many other people, busy about many things, the shepherds became the first to see the most essential thing of all, the gift of salvation. It is the humble and poor who greet the event of the incarnation. The shepherds respond to God who comes to meet us in the infant Jesus by setting out to meet him with love, gratitude, and, of course, amazedness, with speechless, you know. Thanks to Jesus, the encounter between God and these children gives birth to our religion and accounts for its unique beauty, so wonderfully evident in the nativity scene. That's all. That's all. Okay, it is customary to add many symbolic figures to our nativity scene. So if you look at our nativity scene inside the church, the one on the right side, okay, there are different symbolic figures, okay? I took some picture. So the left side is the nativity scene itself. So Mother Mary, Joseph, and the covered one, of course, is baby Jesus. We're gonna uncover him the 24th night. But as you can see, right side, different figures, you know, in the market, and what else? Okay, you see the lady in the well and with the water, once again the souk, different figures. So, among these different figures, there are always poor people and beggars. Why? Because these are part of the mystery too. Often, they are the first to recognize God's presence in our midst. The presence of the poor and the lowly in the nativity scene remind us that God became man for the sake of those who feel most in need of his love and who ask him to draw near to them. Jesus, as St. Matthew told us, gentle and humble in heart, was born in poverty and led a simple life in order to teach us to recognize what is essential and to act accordingly. So the nativity scene clearly teaches us that we cannot let ourselves be fooled by wealth of fleeting promises of happiness. By being born in the manger, God himself launches the only true revolution that can give hope and dignity to the disinherited and the outcast. The revolution of love, the revolution of tenderness. From the manger, Jesus proclaims in a meek yet powerful way that need for sharing with the poor as the path to a more human and fraternal world in which no one is excluded or marginalized. And of course, here, I'd like to recall you another important document, the Human Fraternity document, that was signed by Pope Francis in the Sheikh At-Tayyib in 2019, here in Abu Dhabi. And this entire place was built upon the inspiration of this document. So you see, the need for sharing with the poor as the path to a more human and fraternal world in which no one is excluded and marginalized. Our crib. So the Human Fraternity document. Read it if you don't yet read it. So, from the shepherd to the blacksmith, from the baker to the musician, from the women carrying jugs of water to the children at playing, all this speaks of the everyday holiness. Everyday holiness. The joy of doing ordinary things in an extraordinary way. And here, of course, I want to recall you another document. Let's not forget the stunning apostolic exhortation by Pope Francis 2018, Gaudete et Exultate, on the call of holiness in today's world. Call of holiness for us all, for everybody. So, we have seen some characters, and let's come close to the cave now, where we found, of course, the figure of Mary and Joseph. So, Mary is a mother who contemplates her child and shows him to every visitor, to everyone. The figure of Mary makes us reflect on the great mystery that surrounded this young woman when God knocked on the door of her immaculate heart. Mary responded in complete obedience to the message of the angel who asked her to become the Mother of God. Her words, "Behold, I am the handmaid of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word." So, show all of us how to abandon ourselves in faith to God's will. By her fiat, Mary became the mother of God's Son. In her, we see the Mother of God who does not keep her Son only to herself, but invites everyone to obey his word and to put it into practice. Of course, at Mary's side, shown protecting the child and his mother, stand who? Saint Joseph, of course. And he is usually depicted here. He has a staff, and there, down, there is also a lamp. A staff and a lamp. Saint Joseph plays an important role in the life of Jesus and Mary. He is the guardian who tirelessly protects his family. When God warned him of Herod's threat, he did not hesitate to set out and flee to Egypt. I don't know if you remember. And once the danger had passed, he brought the family back to Nazareth, where he was to be the first teacher of Jesus as a boy and then as a young man. So Joseph treasured in his heart the great mystery surrounding Jesus and Mary, his spouse, as a just man. He entrusted himself always to God's will and put it into practice. And also here, I want to refresh you and recall you another beautiful document, written, of course, once again by Pope Francis in 2020, Patris Corde, the apostolic letter that talks about Saint Joseph and the Father's heart. Also, this is beautiful, not long, beautiful. Read it, reread it once again. And finally, when at Christmas we're gonna place the statue of the infant Jesus in the manger, the nativity scene suddenly comes alive. God appears as a child for us to take into our arms. Beneath weakness and frailty, he conceals his power that created and transforms all things. I know it seems impossible, yet it is true. It is true. It's like this. In Jesus, God was a child. And in this way, he wished to reveal the greatness of his love by smiling and opening his arm to all. So the birth of a child awakes joy and wonder. It sets before us the great mystery of life, isn't it? Seeing the bright eyes of a young couple gazing at their newborn child, we can understand the feeling of Mary and Joseph who, as they looked at the infant Jesus, sensed God's presence in their lives. Once again, it's amazing. Life was made manifest. In these words, the Apostle John sums up the mystery of the Incarnation. The nativity scene allows us to see and touch the unique and unparalleled event that changed the course of history. God's ways are astonishing. For it seems impossible that he should forsake his glory to become a man like us. To our astonishment, we see God acting exactly as we do. He slept, takes milk from his mother, cries, plays like every other child. As always, God baffles us. He is unpredictable, constantly doing what we least expect. The nativity scene shows God as he came into our world, but it also makes us reflect on how our life is part of God's own life. It invites us to become his disciples if we want to attain ultimate meaning in life. And then we have the three kings that are there, kept there, okay, because they're gonna starting to reach out only the 24th Christmas Eve, because the star, the light of Jesus appear. So, wait a minute, we have to follow the star, and they started to walk, correct? So the three kings that we will place exactly them at the feast of the Epiphany. Yani they gonna arrive at the Epiphany, the 6th of January. Observing the star, those wise men from the east set out for Bethlehem in order to find Jesus and to offer him their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. These costly gifts have an allegorical meaning. Gold honors Jesus' kingship. Okay? Incense honors his divinity. Myrrh is sacred humanity that was to experience death and burial. So as we contemplate this aspect of the nativity scene, we are called to reflect on the responsibility of every Christian to live the gospel. Each of us is called to bear glad tidings to all, testifying by our practical works of mercy to the joy of knowing Jesus and his very love. So the Magi, the three kings, teach us that people can come to Christ by a very long route. Great joy comes over them in the presence of the infant king. They are not scandalized by the poor surroundings, but immediately fall to their knees to worship him. Kneeling before him, they understand, kneeling before him, not before, not after, while they were kneeling. Yani being in a relationship with him, with Jesus, we can understand him, we can welcome him. Kneeling before him, they understand that the God who with sovereignty, wisdom guides the course of the star also guides the course of history. I really hope that being in front of the crib this evening helps us to remind when we were children, eagerly waiting to set it up. Those memories make us all the more conscious of the precious gift received from those who passed on the faith to us. And at the same time, they remind us of our duty to share this same experience with our children and our grandchildren. It does not matter how the nativity scene is arranged. It can always be the same, Okay, every year the same, or can be different. Okay? Doesn't matter. What matters is that it speaks to our lives, wherever it is and whatever form it takes. The Christmas crib speaks to us of the love of God, the God who became a child in order to make us know how close He is to every man, woman, and child, regardless of their condition. So, dear brothers, dear sisters, the Christmas crib is part of the precious yet demanding process of passing on the faith. Beginning in the childhood and at every stage of our lives, it teaches us to contemplate Jesus, to experience God's love for us, to feel and believe that God is with us and that we are with Him. We are His children, brothers and sisters all, thanks to that child who is the Son of God and the Son of the Virgin Mary. And to realize that in that knowledge we find true joy. We find Letizia. Like St. Francis, may we open our hearts to the grace of contemplating the incarnation of baby Jesus, and in doing so understand the deep link with the Eucharist, as Francis did. The Nativity scene, and immediately, Christmas Eve, the Mass upon the crib. The Eucharist is Jesus. So every time we celebrate Mass, we celebrate Christmas. We celebrate the miracle of incarnation. And I really hope you set up the Christmas crib in your homes. If you didn't set up yet, please do it. Do it. It will help you to relive the history of what took place in Bethlehem. And last thing, and coming to a conclusion, I want to mention this because it's very touchful, for me, and I hope also for you. St. Francis of Assisi understands that for those with faith, Bethlehem can be anywhere. It must be possible to be anywhere. And this intuition implies a major break with the tradition of religious pilgrimage that had a cost affordable only by a few. So in this revolution, because even the poorest can be able to feel that they are in Bethlehem without suffering discrimination from not being able to reach the holy places. So can you see, you are called to be the holy land of Bethlehem, and prepare your heart because you'll be the actual crib for Jesus this year. Jesus is asking you the permission to born inside your heart, to be able to interiorize, welcome the admirabile signum, okay, at the crib of the crib within oneself means to become a nativity scene for others, to become a sign of hope for others. So from today on, let's always remember this. I am called to be a living nativity scene. I am called to be the most alive nativity scene for others. I am called to be the most alive nativity scene ever. I am called to become a sign of hope for others. So, happy Advent time, happy preparation time, and of course, God bless you all. And thank you for being here together pray in front of the crib, and don't forget to pray in front of the crib. Thank you once again. God bless you, and see you soon.